Hey everybody, it's Matt Robinson. Welcome to another edition of the Writer's Block. As some of you may know, when I'm not here talking to you about some of my favorite authors, I actually teach nearby at the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office, and it was there that I met one of my new favorite authors, Richard Marinick, who's our guest here today. Rick was born in Boston. He's been a bouncer, a martial arts expert, a DA's assistant, and a state trooper. He also participated in the BU prison education program, so he's also a fellow terrier, which we love here on the show, and has gone on to write multiple books, including the one we're going to focus on a little bit today, which is his memoir called Resurrection. He now finds himself teaching and serving as a counselor at the NCSO, and we are fortunate to have him today. Welcome, Sir Rick.
Thank you, Matt.
It's great to see you.
Pleasure to be here.
In a different context, it's great to see you.
Different context, absolutely, yeah.
Right. So tell me about growing up in the mean streets of Boston.
I was born in Dorchester. I lived there for a short time, and then we moved to Quincy, and I was raised in Quincy, little out in Squantum, which is a small neighborhood. It was a small lower middle class neighborhood, and eventually, today it's the land of millionaires. You can't buy land, you can't buy a house out there. But we had a little teeny house out there. And then when I was a kid, we moved to Wollaston Hill. I went to Quincy schools, graduated from North Quincy High School. And then Quincy couldn't contain me. I was looking for action, looking for adventure. I was one of those people. I was kind of lost. I didn't have any direction for my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I started hanging around Boston, staying around in town, going over to South Boston, meeting people. My grandmother was born and raised there. And as a child, I was telling Mike, the producer, I said earlier that my grandmother was born there, and as a child she used to tell me these incredible stories about South Boston. It was a magical place, and I believed it. And she used to say, "It's God's country." And I remember saying to my grandma, I said, "Grandma," I said, "It's God really lives there?" And my grandma looked me dead in the eye and she said, "God lives there."
In Southie.
And that was it, yeah.
Wow.
And that was it. So I said, "I'm going to be over there someday." He said, "That's where your roots are. That's where you belong." And eventually, to my father's chagrin, he didn't want me over there. He said, "It's nothing but trouble for you." And he was right. But I moved over there 1972. I moved in, started hanging around there, and getting in with the culture over there, basically.
Apparently all sides of the culture?
All sides, yeah. But I wasn't criminally oriented at that time. I was working in my father's body shop, and then eventually as a painter, then eventually I was lucky enough, through the grace of God, today I realize we had a friend that was the Norfolk County District Attorney, George Burke. He offered me a job in his office, so I worked in Quincy Court for 4 years, from 1972 to 1976. And in 72, I took the state police exam, and I figured maybe I could be a cop. I was just kind of lost. I didn't have any direction. And by 76, I got a real good look at the judicial system. And what I saw is the unfairness of that's a kind word, the unfairness of the judicial system at that time, and I quit. And I traveled, I went outside the country, I went to Japan. I lived in Japan about 4 months, studying, just going full time with the karate. And I came back, and the state police called me. And they said, would you like to be a trooper? And I didn't really want to, but I was out of work. I was back bouncing in the nightclubs again. I'm working in Kenmore Square. And eventually I said, okay. I tried it, and I went into the state police. I went through the academy, and I tried that out for a while.
And how was the experience, and how has it shaped what you've done since?
Well, it didn't. I lasted a little more than a year there. I mean, I graduated right at the top of my class in the state police academy. It was an elite job at that time. Not so much today. You can see the number of troopers being arrested. They're being arrested every other week. Someone's being indicted. But I got out, and the pay was horrendous. I was making $140 a week. That's what I was making. That $10,700 a year, which was bad for that time too. That was 1978, and then they said within a year you're going to get a raise. You're going to go from $10,700 to $15,000. I said, well, okay, maybe I can do that. So I put the year in. The raise came through. I went from $10,700 to $11,800. So instead of $140 a week, I was taking home $157.80. I had the check stub for years. And after, you're pulling dead bodies out of cars at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're doing all this stuff, and it's like, and I had some other personal issues going on. My marriage was going kind of sideways, and I said, I'm done with this. I quit. The biggest mistake I ever made in my life. I didn't stick it out. I didn't persevere. I've learned since then. and I started running with my friends in South Boston who were the up-and-coming gangsters at the time. They were the young up-and-comers, and that was an interesting experience.
What do you think flipped the switch from, law officer to law flagrant, I guess?
Money.
Yeah.
That was the big flip.
Yeah.
I went from making $140 a week with the state police. Within probably 5 weeks, I was making $1,400 a week, which is like about $3,000 now, over $3,000 a week, and it was pretty easy. And I just stayed with these people, and I ran with them. Eventually, got into cocaine, so the '80s, the rocking '80s, and became cocaine addicted for 4 or 5 years. Got off that in 1984, and got real serious about the criminal lifestyle. Completely sober, working out all the time. And 2 years, 1986, I was apprehended. I was arrested along with some of my other associates with the crew that I belonged to. And I was sentenced to prison, and that was it for that episode of my life.
So how did you come all the way back to not only just doing a third path, but now you're actually actively helping the judicial system again?
Well, I think a lot of people, Matt, put a huge amount of effort into me changing my life. They recognized something in me. They saw at that time, I think they saw that I didn't belong there. I mean, I belonged there. I remember walking out to the yard of Walpole State Prison my first day out in the yard. There's a bunch of guys from South Boston, my friends. They're waving, hey, Rick, hey, what's up? And I remember, I was happy to see them, but I remember walking towards them across that yard in Walpole State Prison and looking up at the gun towers and the walls, and I said to myself, I think I said out loud, I don't belong here. I know I said, I don't belong here. I mean, I did belong there criminally, but in my heart, I knew this is not who I am. I got to do something. I got to find out who I am while I'm in here. And that's where the journey really began. I heard about Norfolk State Prison. They had a college program. Boston University had a great. I said, I'm gonna go to college and see if I can do college. Maybe I can. Maybe that's the path I'll take. And that's what I did. I got to Norfolk eventually, and I took one class at the BU school, one class to see if I could do it. And the professor said to me at the end of I got an A. It was a creative writing class. That's what I was good at, creative writing. And I remember this guy named Michael Karan. He just died recently. And I maintained contact with him ever since I graduated from the Department of Corrections. But Michael said to me at the end, he said, I said, Mike, I want to take another college course. What do you think? And he looked at me. He looked up from his desk. He was writing something. He said, no, I don't think so. And I looked at him like, what? And he looked back at me and said, I think you should take 2 courses next semester. He said, get out of here. 6 years later, I had a bachelor's degree and a master's degree from Boston University. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Boston University.
Never the twin show.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
And I was published for the first time while I was in prison. So it started me off on a new path. That was just the beginning of it. So.
What was the first piece that published?
The first thing I had published was a short story called "Dying to See a Movie," and there was this gentleman. He was a professor he was a retired professor at Harvard University. I think he was the dean of the English department or something like that. But he used to come in and teach the Penn seminars, and I wrote this story for him, and he said this thing has to be published. So he had it published. We had it published in the. I can't think of the name of it was a British, an English magazine. It was a very prestigious magazine. And I get the first paycheck. And he said, you got to keep writing. He was an author. He was a novelist too. Monroe Engel was a pretty good novelist. He was good. He said, you got something. You got to keep going.
Who else were some of your, had you had writers in the family? Where did the early encouragement come from?
I don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
I just think I was born to write. I remember being 18 years old and people say, what are you going to do with your life, Rick? And I'd tell them. I might have been working in the combat zone as a barback at a strip joint. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? I'd say to people, I'm a writer. What have you written? Well, I haven't written anything, but that's what I am. I just felt it. I love to read. I love to write. And I just dabble here and there, and it was in me. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but that's what I was. I knew it. It was one of those weird things.
What was the path from that first short story to the first book?
First book, well, I got out of prison in 1996 after I served 10 years. I got out in 96, and I think I had this dream of writing a screenplay. I knew South Boston was, this is before all the books came out in Southie. I knew this place was like, this is untapped gold mine. I knew it. It's just the maniacs that I ran with over there. They had Whitey Bulger, they had the Italian mafia, had all this stuff going, the corrupt politicians. I said, there's a hell of a story here, and I wanted to take I wanted to write a screenplay. So I went to Emerson nights. I'm working construction during the day. I was a union, local 88 union tunnel worker. They call us sandhogs. And at night I go to, once a week I'd go to school at Emerson for screenwriting, screenplay writing. But at the end of that course, I realized I don't want to write a screenplay. I'm going to write a novel. And I don't know how I was going to do it, but I knew that's what I was going to do.
What did you see as the distinction in terms of the screenplay versus novel?
Well, Dennis Lehane, I think, put it magnificently when he said the difference between a screenplay and a novel is the difference between an orange and a giraffe.
And yet he kind of had to cross.
He had to cross
that bridge.
He had to cross too. He crossed, but and that's the difference. I think a novel is a lot harder to write than a screenplay, and it takes a lot more time, and that's it. So I just keep writing.
Have you ever wanted to take something that you've written and do it in a different format?
At this point, no. I've had people approach me about turning my first novel, Boyos, into a screenplay. There's some Hollywood people. I'm not interested. I've got too much. I have a limited amount of time. I have things I have to do. I have I've finished one novel recently, or recently, 2 years ago. I'm 2/3 of the way through the next novel, and I have the next one planned. And there's another memoir that I want to write. My wife and I, Elaine, lovely Elaine, my beautiful wife, Elaine, we're Christians today, and I want to write a memoir from a Christian-based perspective. That, looking back over my life, there's no way I should be here talking to you. There's no way. People died all around me, so I think there was a purpose, and I just see the places where God worked in my life to bring me to where I am today, across from you. I see that, so I'm going to do that.
I'm grateful for whatever it took to get you here. So let's talk about the memoir. How did you choose which stories to include and what to maybe leave for another project?
The memoir, I figured you'd be able to write this memoir fairly quickly. It took me 5 years, and I ended up with like 780 pages. And then, so you have to narrow it down. And I had people looking at it and say, "Well, Rick, you got a great story here, but you get too much." And a lot of the stuff that was in the original, my wife said to me, Elaine said, "Don't put that in there." I said, "It's true. Don't put that in there. The statute of limitations is 7 years. It's okay. I'm all set. Don't put that in there."
Oh, that there might be
some of the stuff was, I lived a hard scrabble life, let's put it that way. Sure. And I said, okay. I'm thinking I'll put it in the next book. So what I did, I just cut and trimmed, created a nice clean narrative arc, which I believed was a good narrative arc, beginning, middle, and end. And I came up with this, and it's the book that I was supposed to write at this time. And that's how we came up with that.
Were there any that really kind of still gnaw at you that you didn't include, or that you're
nothing? Like, no, because there's a lot more. A lot of things that I include in my novels, I include this stuff. These are things that actually happened. Right. But I just change names, change the circumstance a little bit. So I'm filtering these things into my novels, and to make them more, they're authentic. It's real, and people, I think, sense that. So
there's a really fine line in terms of the format for you between memoir and novel.
Yeah, there is. I mean, this is all true. This is true. A memoir, I mean, a novel is, a lot of it's, made up, imaginary, whatever. But it could have happened. It might have happened. Maybe it did happen. But that's up to the reader. Let them figure it out.
Now, you also you have a website, Crime Inside Out, and you also have a podcast.
Well, okay. I had a friend in 2013. He was pushing me. He's a successful businessman. He said, "You got to get a podcast, a crime, with the stuff you know and the people." And the thing is, so we went through the whole process. I created the website. I had the thing. We had a video promotion put out. I did a film and everything, just promoting the. It's a beautiful work, but once I get into it, it was cutting away from my writing. I can't do all that. I got to stick with one or the other. The website's still up. It's not active. I trademarked the name, which is Crime Inside Out, Rick Marinick's Crime Inside Out. Everything's up there, but I haven't really done anything with it since. And I figure when I slow down, I'm going to get into a podcast when I can actually devote more time to it.
People have been actually telling me to turn the show into a podcast, which I've been working on for
Okay,
years. But
yeah.
you know, I so enjoy doing things in the studio with people I know and just live in person. But you know, there's, like you said, there's always more projects.
Yeah, more projects than is limited time, especially as we get older.
But that is where people can still go to find a little more about you and to find the books.
Yeah, you can find out. I mean, I'm online. If you Google my name, I'm up there.
Sure.
There's a lot of information out there on, but you know, it's just like that's whatever. That's before. That was yesterday.
Do you know a lot of other people who had the drastic changes in terms of the side of the law that you've been on that can relate really to your life, or have people come up to you and said, you know, your story is my story, but you tell it better, or things of that nature?
No.
No?
No.
You think,
No. It's just there's nobody.
Yeah.
That I know. You know, it's just like I'm running around as a former state trooper, as an up-and-coming gangster in the South Boston Irish mob, you know, and then you go to prison. You're going into the prison system as a former state trooper. That's an experience right there. Because people don't realize it's not just being an ex-cop. The state police are really hated by inmates in the Massachusetts Department of Corrections for the one reason: if there's a riot, if there's trouble, if the guards can't handle the situation, and they're forced to bring in the state police come in and they settle things very quickly. There's no fooling around. There's no negotiating. There's no nothing. They're in there like stormtroopers. And I actually went into Norfolk at one point. There was a riot as a state trooper. And then later, I found myself in the same facility that I had come in riot gear maybe 10 years before, 8 years before, whatever. So it's kind of interesting, yeah.
how is the whole path, when you work with the inmates now at the NCSO and they find out your past, how does that influence your relationships with them and how you're able to work with them?
I think, Matt, it's beneficial. A lot of times inmates will feel that you can't relate to them. They'll actually say, you don't know where I'm coming from. You don't understand. And when I'm dealing with these men, I do understand. I was exactly where they are. In fact, I was in the old Dedham jail. I was being housed there for a crime at one time. And that's the old facility. Right. So I've been in that jail and a lot of other jails. So they listen to me, to some degree. You know, they listen and they respect me, because I understand them and I appreciate what they're going through, and I have that empathy for them, and I know it. But I'm not a soft touch by any stretch. It's like I'm there to help them, and help doesn't come across easy sometimes. Sometimes help is painful, but I'm there to tell them the truth. And if the truth, well, they say the truth will set you free, literally.
Right.
The truth will set you free.
Yeah.
So.
And how does your being a professional writer come across? Have you found any of the current inmates who say, you know, who get inspired by that you were able to find your way out through telling your stories? That's
another major thing. Yes, a lot of people have stories. You know, a lot of people, and you meet them and they'll say, I got a story in me too. And everyone that says that to me, I'll say, I bet you do. We all have stories, but you got to put your butt in the seat and write it. That's the difference. You got to put down, as you know. It's a discipline.
I had that just today.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I believe everyone has a story. When
Everybody.
people say I'm not a good writer or my story doesn't matter, that couldn't be further. Everyone
does.
Everyone has something to teach, but it is, you know, getting it down. And you know, there are tools today that can help, admittedly.
Sure.
But I'm still a firm believer that you have to tell your own story your way.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
So it's encouraging for the men. It's also, I mean, they enjoy my books, and it's like, and maybe if they're dreaming about doing it, you can do it too.
Right.
You know, anything I said, I tell my men, my clients, these guys, I said, anything I can do, you can do. You know, how much do you want it?
Right.
You got to really want it, and change is not easy, and change can be scary, but you work through the fear, you utilize the fear, use it as a form of energy to move you forward. And you can have it too. You can have what I get. You can have everything I have. And everything I have today is everything that I wanted as a gangster in the old days. I wanted a nice house, beautiful wife, respect, money in the bank, all these things. I was trying to do at the end of a gun. I have everything now. by doing everything right. And that's another marketing tool that I use to these men. He said, you can have everything, but you can't have it the old way.
Right.
That's all.
How has your writing process changed, if at all? Or is it different for a novel versus a memoir, or when you have different intentions for the project?
That's a good question. I don't know. You know, it's like, I think it's tougher to write the memoir because you have to deal with facts. And how do you put the facts correctly in a way that people are going to be interested in reading them? What is, when you overwrite maybe, am I telling too much? With a novel, you can write whatever you want. I watch TV shows and you say, how did he get from this character get from there to this position? Oh, they have one line that explains it. Oh, he met his aunt and he sent you down here. Oh, really? Okay. Much easier. So I'm finding I can do whatever I want with my characters. I mean, I watch my characters as I'm working on the novel. They pretty much tell me, they speak to you. As I'm sure you know, the characters speak to you. And they tell me where they want to go. And if I like it, I'll go along. If I can tweak things, I will. And that's where it's back and forth, editing. Write and edit, write and edit. And you come up with something, hopefully it's good enough that people want to read it. It's fun, but it's work. It's real work.
Yeah, it's real work.
Yeah, it's aggravating too.
When a project is quote unquote done, as if a writing project is ever done,
Yeah, thank you.
how do you decide what to do next with all the possibilities, all the stories you have to tell? How do you decide, you know, this is going to be the one I dig into for now?
I don't know. It's just, I think it's that inner voice that we all, as writers, that we have, and you're directed. In my case, as a Christian, I pray on it. Where do you want me to go? Your will be done, Father. Thank you. Where do you want me to go? And I get the direction. I pray before I start writing every day. It's a little short prayer, inviting God in with me as I write. And I'm writing mayhem. I write dark novels, violence. People say, "Do you really think God?" Doesn't matter. He put the dream in my heart to do this. So I'm going to argue with him. He's going to use me some way. Yeah.
Do you have editors or family and friends that you kind of pass? Do you have like a writing team that you check things with as you go along?
No, my writing team consists of my wife Elaine. She reads. She's an avid reader. I read everything I write to her multiple times, and she'll go, well, "This is good," and she'll tell me. And sometimes she'll say, "I don't like this. I don't understand," and I'll go, "What do you mean you don't understand? It's like right there." But then I'll think. I'll say, "You know what? You're right." I'll walk away. You're right. I'll come back or you're not right. Look, this is why, and I'll try to convince her. If I can't convince her, if I feel in my heart it's good, I'll leave it alone. But most of the time, she's pretty right. And my other editor is Grammarly. I use Grammarly, the app. It's great for spelling, commas, semicolons, that type of stuff. Reorganizing sentences. It doesn't write a story for you.
No.
But it just makes the sentences clearer.
Well, I mean, these days there are things that will write it for you. But
yeah, I know, but it's not real.
No.
And you can't. Where's the dialogue going to come from? It's got to be real. The machine's not going to do it. I just found out yesterday, some company they use this book, and it's a big company. If I said the name of it, it's an AI company, and this is one of the books they use to train their AI.
Yeah. Well,
you know about this?
It's a credit to you, but it's also not.
Yeah. Well, they were sued, and they got a huge settlement from it. And I just got a thing in the mail saying, "You want a piece of it?"
Yeah.
But it kind of ticked me off that they did it. But it's just it is a compliment also.
Right.
So it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's like being plagiarized, or
Yeah, it's plagiarism.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah.
But it's a double-edged sword, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, they found me, they thought enough of me to include me, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
They included me in something that I shouldn't be included in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a nice feeling. But I had material stolen from one of my books in a Boston-based movie.
Yeah.
They stole the whole section of one of my books. But it's just like, I was mad. But my grandmother said, "Don't get mad, get even. You keep writing. I'm going to keep writing, and maybe someday the person that stole that stuff is going to want to buy the next novel.
Right.
Maybe pay an extra premium.
Right.
That's what I hope, at least.
Right.
We'll see."
So what is next? What are you working on currently?
I'm doing a sequel right now. I'm writing a sequel to my second novel, In for a Pound, and it's a good story. It's a good story. I love the characters. I know who the characters are, and I'm about 2/3 of the way through that, and that's where I am right now.
Did it come from anything that Elaine had turned down the first time, or is it all kind of new
No,
material?
this is basically, I wrote a rough draft of this, half of the book maybe 3 years ago. I picked up that rough draft, revised sections of it, added a few more characters, deleted some, took some out, and fine-tuned the story, and came up with a better idea. So it deals with the supernatural, and it's kind of interesting. The two private detectives working on a case, and involves a fortune teller, and it's chaotic. It's a crazy book, but people like that stuff.
Oh,
you know?
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So just to close up, as fellow educators, what is the best piece of advice you've received about writing, and what is your favorite advice to give to students who say they want to write?
The best advice I think I've ever received is very simple. Write what you know. Don't go outside your sphere of experience, basically. You can, but you know, people can do that.
Someone else can do it better.
Yeah, you don't have to necessarily have lived the experience, but I think it's easier when you've lived an experience, and especially with the crime novels, the crime material, people they like it. They're interested in this stuff. What I tell the men, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and one of the biggest mistakes I made was I didn't persevere. I didn't have the patience to persevere in particular areas, like in the state police. I didn't have the perseverance to continue on to see what might have happened with my life if I had stayed there. You can't give up on yourself. And I tell them, as a Christian, look up, talk to God. He's the channel. He's going to help you. He will always help you. And I push that higher power thing. Because if you look at the 12 steps, AANA, 10 of the 12 steps deal with a higher power.
Right.
I don't push religion. I push spirituality. I say, keep your eyes up, and He'll help you. That's the main advice I give them.
All right. Well, it's great advice, not just for writers. It's great advice for everybody, and we're really honored. I'm really honored that you could come here today, Rick.
My pleasure, Matt.
So keep looking
Thank
up
you.
and look out for us on the next episode of The Writer's Block. Thanks for coming by.